Beautiful family, welcome. Glad you're here. Today we're going to be practicing right here a movement routine that's going to be mobilizing your joints, getting in touch with the floor, and by the end of the routine you're going to be able to create your own sequence. If the movements are too challenging, you also have an easier variation. And with that being said, you know what time it is. Yeah, it's practice time! All right, family, let's begin this practice. And today we're going to be starting with shaking and bouncing in 3, 2, 1. And let's start this bounce. Start shifting the weight from one foot to the other, showing the body some movement, intensity. Let's raise the heart rate for what's to come. Down below, you can see all the movements that we're going to be doing in this routine, so you can anticipate what's coming, its duration, and you'll see how all of these movements will be very resourceful when creating your own sequence. So as you finish bouncing, now we're gonna go down to the floor into this crawling position. We're calling this one crawl exploration, so feel free to crawl in whichever direction you want. Get a feeling of the floor. How are your hands feeling in contact with the floor? Your wrists. You may want to crawl sideways, crossing over. Or perhaps kicking through with one leg and see what it's like to rotate. So I invite you to get creative on this one. The only requisite here is that only your feet and hands can touch the floor. By the way, feel free to rest for a bit if your shoulders are burning. You don't want to get completely exhausted in this first crawling exercise. So take it easy. And here is an idea for the next time that you do this routine. This crawl includes some bent arm push-ups. What does it feel like to bend your arms when you're crawling? So going to the next one, we're going to rest in this deep squat position. If that's not available to you yet, you can sit on a set of books, a box, or keep your heels elevated and support yourself with your hands. We're going to start rocking from side to side. And from there, we're going to switch into touching the floor with the knees. If you cannot touch the floor, just see where you reach. Set it as a test for yourself and help yourself with your hands as much as you need. You may not fully extend the hips in this position, but there's no right or wrong. How would you touch the floor with your knees in that position? That's it. We're gonna quickly shake for a bit, flushing that tension accumulated from the crawling or even the squatting, if that was challenging to you. And the next one that we're going to be doing is going to be the pronated crawl, where you're going to be crawling facing down, unlike the supinated where you face up. So let's get ready, go down, and start crawling in as many directions as possible. Try to find all these possible ways. If you feel like your shoulder blades are smooshed together and your back arching, push the floor away. See what that does. Does it change the shape? You feel your scapula is more protracted? Core, does it feel tighter when you push the floor away? Just notice these little subtleties that make a big difference in the way you move. So as you get ready to rest, the way we're going to be resting in between sets is going to be by keeping 3 limbs in touch with the floor. So find the most restful position, in which shape it's most efficient to rest, or which one does it take less energy. And that it allows you to recover, to get in tune with your breathing. If you're in for an extra challenge, I invite you to keep the breathing only through your nose. Inhale and exhale only through your nose for the entire session. So the next up is going to be low gait, in which we're going to be walking very, very close to the ground. And it's okay to use your hand, both hands, use whatever you need to keep your hips as close to the ground and walk. Don't turn it into a crawl. The point is to place most of your weight in your legs. And you'll notice how it requires a degree of hip mobility. It will quickly tell you which areas are tighter, but be gentle. And don't judge yourself, it's fine. You're already experiencing new things. You're already gaining so much from moving in all these new ways for you. And let's rest. By the way, how was the nose breathing? Did you forget or did you keep it? Just a friendly reminder, as well as just keeping 3 points of contact, at a minimum of 3. You can place the other hand as well if you want. And we're gonna get ready for this supinated crawl. Supinated meaning that we're gonna be facing up. So I suggest you place your body in this shape. Then hips, you can pick between keeping them high or low and start crawling in that position. If this is the first time that you've crawled in this position, I suggest you keep your hips low. The next time, you may want to go for a challenge. Extend your hips and you'll notice how it demands more of a shoulder extension. And it's overall more challenging, requires more glute engagement, core engagement. It has a different feeling to it. So how is the crawling going? In which directions are you picking? Are you only going back and forth? Are you going sideways? Maybe in circles? Just like the previous crawl? Explore all the different directions and the ones that you find yourself avoiding. So let's go back to resting. By the way, are you still breathing through your nose? I'm gonna keep checking on you from time to time and see how you're doing. It would be so interesting to know in which positions are you resting. Are you picking a squat? Are you leaning towards one foot, extending the other? That's one of the things that is so fascinating about movement, is that every one of us is trying to do the same movement, but we all look differently. We'll have our own unique signature in the way we move. So let's get ready to crawl low and find yourself flexing your arms to bring yourself lower to the ground, and then from there start by taking just small steps. See what it feels like, a different texture of the movement. And let me remind you here that you can rest at any moment in this routine. You can wait and rest for a few seconds, or maybe get the set as done until you eventually do it all in one go. Also, I invite you to grab the floor as you're crawling. Get a feeling of the floor, not just place your hands in hopes that you're supporting yourself, but actually connecting to the surface that you're touching. So let's rest for a few seconds. That might have been the most intense crawling yet. So let's catch our breath here. Let's recover for the next movement, which is going to be the side reach squat. An exercise that's going to give a break to your upper body. And we're going to be focusing and reaching, as the name says, to the sides. So we're gonna begin standing up for this one. Now sit down as if you were going to sit into a chair, and then reach with one leg as far to the side as possible and bring the other leg into this squat position. Once again, feel free to use both hands or one hand to help yourself do this movement pattern. The point is that you use what you have right now. This is the movement option that I'm offering. How can you make it available to you with what you have? That's where you start learning about your body, what it is capable of, opening new doors, new options for yourself that you didn't know you already had. It's not about gaining more mobility, more strength, more endurance, more. You're already here with a body, which is enough. What can you do with it right now? Let's wrap it up and do your last reps until we take some rest. How was that? Is that the first time that you did this movement, or what did you end up doing? Did you place one hand, both? Did you find your adductors being tight? And by the way, how is your nose breathing going? So the next movement we're going to be practicing is going to become very, very handy for transitioning from one side to the other when it comes to crawling. We're going to start into a squat, get in all fours, kick through and step over that leg, ending up in another squat. Kick through with the left, step over, ending up into the squat. So become familiar with this movement pattern. And perhaps you want to stay with the kick, squat, and kick. But the way that we're going to make it a loop is that we're going to kick and we're going to go straight into another kick. Straight into another kick. And you'll see how you pivot your body with 2 points of contact, leaving only one foot and one hand on the ground. And you're pivoting from one side to side. And you'll see how handy this movement is when you create your own sequence. So we're gonna rest for a bit before we get into the improvisation flow. I invite you to use all the space that you have and to put the awareness onto yourself. I'm not gonna be giving you any guidance during the flow, just to give you a blank canvas for you to create whatever you want. Don't try to anticipate all the movements that you're going to do. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm gonna move this way and then this other way and I'm gonna transition that way. It's great to visualize, but the practice that we're going to do right now is of simply letting go, ideally using the movements that you've practiced before, but don't get stuck trying to remember. Just keep the motion constant. Let's begin this flow. So let's start wrapping up this sequence, finishing it. So how was that? Was that your first ever improvisation flow? If you want to repeat it, to do it again, just pause the video right here. I highly suggest it. But if you're fine, let's cool down with some bouncing, shaking, letting go of all the tension built up throughout the routine. This is a moment to relax. So let your limbs loose. You may keep your feet on the ground or bouncing, making little jumps, bending over. Once again, shaking is one of those practices that you can just explore within yourself and see what your body feels like doing in that specific moment, which is something that you're going to be cultivating and fine-tuning, practicing with that intention in mind. Now get ready to stand still and experience the contrast between the movement created when shaking and the stillness, the vibrations going through your body, your heartbeat, your breathing, hopefully through your nose. And you may stay here for as long as you need. We appreciate you for allowing us to guide you in this practice. Hopefully you'll repeat it and you'll see how different it feels. And we'll see you on the next one, family. Have a beautiful week.